Friends, we will officially start this program for today. First of all, I'll be very thankful to all those startup founders and investor who was very much agreeing to be part of this show. Machine Maker is starting today. Manufacturing is one industry which never worked from home, and Indians, and especially the people in manufacturing, was able to use their time constructively during this new normal, during this lockdown time. We have seen a lot of webinars organized by different people, and now even when I open my mailbox in the morning, I at least get around 10-15 invitations for different webinars. So the real challenge for Machine Maker, where our passion is to tell stories and also empower manufacturers around us. For that matter, when Prime Minister Modi came with the Make in India, I was one of the very happiest persons. One Prime Minister talking about making in India. I was so inspired. So from making in India, now last time Nirmala Sitharaman was talking about assembling in India, and now COVID-19 giving an Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this country needs to develop their manufacturing. We were thinking that how we can add that value and how we can become a prominent empowering person to the manufacturers, the people who are in the manufacturing, through these webinars and this new platform, which people are now using it more and more. So that is why this Friday debate, the entire thought came out. Jokes apart, we would like to make our life very easy. We would like to make our life enjoyable, and we should enjoy our work. That is the whole idea behind it, and come and share with each other. Maybe the problem what Akshay is having, the solution is with Chaitanya. The same here and there. So the whole concept is about to talk and understand and share this knowledge to people around us. So once again, all my panelists today, the speakers, the founders of excellent startups of Indian manufacturing for last couple of years, and also our participants for today. They are the strength. If they are not there, I am not here, or we are not there. So first of all, warm welcome to all participants to this Friday debate of Machine Maker. Today we are talking about the challenges of startups in Indian manufacturing. So to start today's program, this Friday debate, Nana Kumaraswamy to come and share his journey.
Hi, very good evening, everyone. And as Hari mentioned, my name is Gyan Kumaraswamy. Been in the automotive industry for last 20 years, and started on my own with my passion towards working with universities. So just to give you an example, I worked with here NIT Surathkal and established a mechatronics lab in NIT Surathkal. They are MTech students are using my lab in NIT Surathkal. So that's the passion in which it started. I used to hire lot of interns, bright interns from engineering colleges, and that's how the engagement between university and academia started, because I felt there is a lot of gap in India. But the journey this started, it ended up that I started working with Japanese universities, and that's how the offer came in to take up the role that I am working with almost like 14-15 universities in Japan to bring research to prototype. It's just not the research, but from research to prototype, getting technology from Japan to Indian OEMs and suppliers. Example is power electronics. One of the example is power electronics, but I also work on image processing, robotics, uh, the FPGA, and advanced control systems, and all the areas where the researchers work do. If you have a problem statement, I can get the problem statement converted from a research to a prototype. So that's the kind of work that we do. In power electronics, today I am working with Japanese universities to bring in a motor, an efficient motor, an axial flux motor for electric vehicles from Japan to India. The prototype will be developed in Japan. The production will happen in India. So I have done some local partnership with a Japanese manufacturer in India. With them, we will be doing the motor manufacturing for two-wheeler segment, two-wheeler and three-wheeler segment initially to start with. So it will start with motor, but just not the motor. We are also working on battery management software, power distribution in it, all the components that goes into a two-wheeler. We are working with multiple manufacturing partners. We are a design house, and we give the design, we make the prototype and hand over the technology to Indian OEMs. That's the objective in which the company has started. So in similar lines, the challenge that I had was, see, when I'm getting a good research from Japan to India, why not should I try with Indian universities? So I did approach Indian Institute of Science and looked at their portfolio, and they also told, when you are doing with Japanese universities, why can't you take our research and convert into a prototype? But then when we looked at most of the IISc, I should be a little bit what you call, even at IISc, there the focus is not on the product, the focus is on the paper. So just a researcher, his focus is, I want to publish my paper in an IEEE conference, but he will not take it to a product and then convert that into a thing. So even after looking at the research papers at IISc, for last 18 months, I was not able to convert a single paper into a product. So that's the challenge on the Indian university side, that I would say. Indian manufacturing. Yeah, from me, manufacturing challenge, one challenge that I would like to tell is basically you are a startup. You don't have a capex to invest in a manufacturing setup. And OEMs will not accept you as a vendor until unless you are tied up with a large supplier. And you cannot become their vendor base also directly. You have to partner with somebody who is in the field for longer time, get associated with him, and then only you can become a vendor to them. So directly, I am not a vendor to any OEM so far, but indirectly through my partner, I am a vendor. So that's the challenge that I would like to.
So Nana came in the end and put the goal. He was just trying to take the ball, give to someone, take playing and all those things. And in the end moment before closing, he just put up a point. That is something great we all would like to hear. Yeah, the startups are not able to really go and do business with big guys because big guys don't trust us. Okay. Yeah. We will definitely, that's a great point which we would like to come and ask, and maybe someone will give us a solution, Dana.
Yeah.
Now, let me invite my second guest of the day. Yeah, I just known him for a very less time, but he impressed me a lot. And his name is also a little bit different from others. So if he's able to tell us the meaning or the secret behind why the name is like that, I will be very happy to know. I'm talking about none other than Bulusu Chaitanya. So he is the co-founder of Pather. It's a Mumbai-based predictive analysis technology startup. And as all we were sitting at home during the lockdown, what Pather and their team have done, they have invented a new product called Guard Pro. So it's a sterilizing unit, and now they are trying to get this product to different hospitals and all those things. With his experience from the Indian manufacturing corporates where he worked with some of the leading companies, I'm sure he had a bumpy ride in getting his startup into the roads. So Chaitanya, I would like to know from you the kind of challenges you faced by setting up your startup, and how you are taking this forward.
Thank you, Hari, and thank you for that massive premise which you have put me in. Right. So okay, now because you have, I believe you're talking about the uniqueness of the name of the organization, right? And you said, yeah.
No, I was talking about your name.
Okay, so Bulusu is my surname now, and I'm from Andhra Pradesh, and we are. So okay, we'll talk about it. But of course, it's my surname, and Chaitanya, of course, is your inner, energy or consciousness. So okay, so coming to the point of why now the background of my organization, which I'm in, I'm a fairly new startup relative to all the panelists which we have here. But I just would like to tell you how this complete startup thing began. For me and my partner, Vishal Jaju, it started with a question: is product going to be my business, or catering to the customer needs is going to be my business? With that, we came up with this organization called as Pather. Now, Pather is Pather. It is on the lines of predictive analytical tool for any industrial machines, which we talk about. It predicts and it helps. So this tool helps in early breakdown, cases, and it'll help you to, predict when the breakdown is going to happen, and it'll safeguard you enough large amount of millions of money, depending upon the critical process parameters which we are calculating. Now, of course, the global industrial sector faced the deep change in landscape in last few years, and of course, it is going to change in coming few days, few months, considering the current COVID scenario. Due to successive development of technologies and innovation in manufacturing organizations. Everyone knows the implementation of new manufacturing and management technologies required by Industry 4.0 concept. Now, I come from a Industry 4.0 and industrial automation. I'll just give you a brief about my background. I've been in this industry of industrial automation for the last 15 years. And I have seen that there are many tools which are available, but specific to a certain machine, of course, it depends upon how we cater to that customer. So that's where, and the prowess of Industry 4.0 and IIoT, I thought of using that and bringing it to at the OEM level about the machines. So the essence of Industry 4.0, of course, is digitalization of manufacturing through networking between units, adopting innovative business models, mobility in process, industrial operation flexibility, and kind of, integration of supply chains, suppliers, and customers. Now, why am I talking about all this? I want to, bifurcate this discussion channel in two parts. A is, what is it that our current Indian manufacturing setup, Indian manufacturing sector is facing, the challenges which the manufacturing industry is facing. That's A. B, what is the current startup industry which is trying to get into the manufacturing sector facing the challenges? So I'm going to stitch both of them as I speak. So of course, as I said, earlier, people don't want to buy a 1/4 inch drill. They want a 1/4 inch hole. I I don't want to discuss the barriers which are industry specific and vertical specific, but I find a lack of clear comprehension of IIoT as a big challenge for the manufacturing industry altogether. And from there, talking of IIoT comprehension, I believe there are a number of challenges, again, related to the manufacturing industry. First, the data sources that companies have got, for example, production, process, and product data, are often very fragmented. In addition to sampling plans that are not cohesive and the payoffs are very unclear. And the biggest challenge which we faced when we entered into this industry is, as a startup, is realizing that and to let them know that IoT combined with analytics is not simply a calculator that gives the right answer when you want it. Instead of IoT is a part of the manufacturing process. It's up to the manufacturers to understand that their models, and I believe Ghana would agree with me, it's up to the manufacturers to understand that their models and decision processes will not be perfect at first. And they, of course, will need to mature in place over time. For us, when we after starting up this organization, COVID happened. And the whole idea of relevancy to that industry and the projects got stuck. And that was a huge hit to us. That's when we thought of being relevant to the market by keeping up the promise of the brand and the principles of the brand on which we were working on, the organization, that is Pather again. So the UV chamber which you talked about in the introduction, Hari, that is an output of a machine that we wanted to give to the market, which will have a predictometer that will talk about when your UVC device, when that sterilizer is going to break down, or how efficient was that device or in sterilizing the samples or tools which are there. So whatever technology which we were working on all this while we were trying to advocate the concept of predictive analytics and IoT to the manufacturing setup, we used the same methodology and brain to develop this product. And of course, it has come up as one of the most innovative and the safest UVC chamber. Challenges which a startup industry faces, I just want to take a few minutes there. The availability of is critical for the startups, and is always going to be a problem to get sufficient amounts, because there's the kind of industry which we serve in. When it comes to manufacturing industry, again, we're at the beginning of the S curve, where there's a huge difference, gap between the wish list of the market and the maturity of the market. So we have to advocate it, and we need to ensure that we need to handhold that industry to what Industry 4.0 can deliver, and that's where, and then that's the place where we race against time and money. So of course we'll talk more about it, but just to give you an idea about it, I think finance plays a very important role. And India has always been a destination for low-cost outsourced software and support services since the late 80s. So I think in current scenario, I believe it's a chance to accelerate the whole idea of this IIoT and Industry 4.0 framework, and not only reduce the dependence on China and manual labor, but to prove to the world that we are the next global manufacturing hub, and a far superior one at that. That's about it, Hari.
Thanks, Chaitanya. It was wonderful actually to hear from you. And yes, there are certain points you also mentioned about getting the right finances and the technology aspect. It's great. Do the big companies neglect startup while doing business? So the poll is in your computer. Please participate. this is the result. You can see 62% people think that startups are neglected. Yeah, this is a very, very big problem. You see, we need to further talk about that. Before that, let's bring to the the women power in our panel today. It will be my pleasure and privilege to invite Kushbu Srivastava. I know her before this startup. Right now, she's a founder of Columbia AI, and they are here to transform the battery data to battery intelligence. We all know that electric vehicles, e-mobility is in prime for last couple of years, and last 2 years the government of India also is taking a lot of efforts to build the infrastructure as well as bring more uh, to develop the e-mobility in the country. So the startup which is floated by the Ciptrax, she founded Ciptrax, co-founded there. Now she's founder of this Columbia AI. It will be very much interesting to find out from Kushbu her challenges, which she was telling. Data sharing and funding was one of the major challenges which she faced, and also this trust factor also comes there, which she shared. So Kushbu, it will be great to hear from you.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hari. Thank you for the invitation. I must say I'm an outlier here. I'm fairly new in this space. Just started the company 2 months back, and before that I was working with General Motors in electric vehicle development and powertrain space. So there were incidences that happened that when you work at big organization and you feel there are certain gaps which you yourself can fill into, and I think that is the power of startups, where the big organizations should focus on, so that they can delegate these specialized and core type of technologies to startups, and they can fairly integrate in their own process flow. So I was working with a lot of battery data, and in terms of autonomous driving also we were dealing with a lot of data along algorithms and all. So that is somewhere my strength is around. And when I wanted to start in battery space, I was working with a lot of Indian fleet operators, OEMs, and trying to figure out what is exactly the problem they are facing. And pretty much everybody is facing issues with batteries, and batteries being very incredibly difficult to get data from, to comprehend data from. That is the key thing that I could gain into, and wanted to build a solution around that. And that's where we founded Columbia AI, where we want to transform this data, which is any data collected from battery, whether it is from BMS or electric vehicle or any other energy storage device which has lithium ion, and wanted to convert that into some intelligence form, so that the operator should not be worrying about. So it is some part of it also predictive analytics, which Chaitanya also talked about, and this is, I think, the key factor in driving electric mobility further. I'll just quickly jump onto the challenges which I faced in 2 months when I was starting. So just wanted to share some experiences, and that will give the gravity of how the data is playing a big role in the coming years, and how startups need to be curated around that space. So my first experience, I went to fleet operator, and here I was talking with the managing director, and I was telling that I need this data, and all these problems that you discussed with me related to predictive maintenance, real-time monitoring, and all those systems, we can fix up all these things. And I came to know that the fleet operator is not the owner of the data, and it was quite surprising to me, because that was the first revelation I had in terms of the business model that is evolving in the current EV space. EVs being very costly, and nobody wants to invest a hell out of money in buying that. So there is a leasing company who is leasing out these vehicles, and there is an operator, and there is this manufacturer. So what happens? These are the three people that are governing this ecosystem, and I was there sitting and who should I sell my solution to? Because the data is being shared with all these people, and it is pretty much not clear like who exactly is the owner of the data. And suddenly the things figure out quite quite drastically that we are now tying up with the OEM to figure out some of these problems. So I was lucky to have these things. But certainly this is a challenge which I think any AI startup or any database startup that will be coming in in next years or so, because the data is something which drives these intelligence, and if the data is not shared with somebody who is expert in building the algorithms, it is a loss from both the sides. So this is the challenge that I firmly believe that needs to be figure out from the OEM to the leasing to the operators data. And I think from a perspective of the governments also, where how you're planning to make the arrangements around how the data should be shared, who is the owner of the data, and things around it. Another perspective which I felt while talking to many people in this space while they are running the vehicles or while they're owners of the vehicles, they feel that if I'm sharing the data to any startup, there are leaks in the data. But certainly from a perspective of a technologist, it never happens. So this challenge is coming because we do have lack of awareness around the data and how the data privacy and data protection is going to take place in the recent time. Hopefully it should be figured out I think at a bigger level, so that it will translate in a systematic way how it is translating now with any of the hardware things. So right now I just want to focus on this challenge around the data. There are many challenges we'll talk about later.
Thank you for your your introduction as well as the challenges you are facing. Now I would like to invite Akshay. Akshay Singh is a he's into core manufacturing for we can say last 2 decades. He is based in Pune and he runs a startup which is into industrial measuring and automation called Big Zero Technology. He works with the machine tool industry, the automotive industry. He can also talk about the transformation which is happening in the automobile sector in India. He is one of the people who are very closely working with the automotive sector, and a startup in that core segment is something very interesting to hear. So Akshay, I would like to invite you to share your thoughts and views on the challenges faced by Indian manufacturing.
Thanks, Hari, for this great opportunity. And I really thank all the panelists. I think it has been a great story that I've been hearing about the challenges, about the innovations that everybody is trying to bring here. I think my journey is not that different. It's same here. I started working in this industry for almost like 13 years now. And in 2018, I started this company called Big Zero Technology. And the whole focus of Big Zero was to, bring sort of a change in measurement world, because till now this has been dominated by a couple of major players who are dominating more than 70% of the metrology market globally. And then there are a lot of companies across the world, but they are not that big and they're not able to, capture that big market. So, there was a necessity, there was a demand, and, as you get an idea of a startup and as a company, the most important thing what you see is a solution to the problem that you see. And I saw an opportunity that, when everybody's talking about Industry 4.0, manufacturing that is closer to the, it should be in sync with the methodology, should be in sync with the manufacturing. And all these things was on paper, and there were a lot of thoughts going with the big global firms. And I just thought that why can't I do with this small suppliers? Because if you really want to make it effective, it has to be done at grassroots level. It's just that the OEMs are using it, it's not going to be successful. So the whole idea of Big Zero was to bring metrology, and it's to a lot of people who are not aware about it, because I know it's a very diversified panel here, and there are a lot of things we are talking about. So it is something which is a science of measurement. So anything that you design, anything that you conceive, and when you manufacture, the most important aspect is to measure what you are manufacturing. And this is exactly what measurement does, metrology does. So what we do is we do provide all type of sensors. So that can be a camera-based technology, that can be a 3D laser scanners or structural light scanners, and we can inspect a small needle to the complete aerostructures. So we have this capability to provide, and not only that, we can provide a manual solutions, we can customize it as per your needs, and we can also provide a complete automated solution that will be in sync with your manufacturing world. Now, what changes we are trying to bring here is quite unique. And the changes that we are trying to bring for the industry is we are going to provide that metrology solution that should be the part of manufacturing cycle. Now, previously what used to happen, and if you have visited the soft floors and if you have visited the manufacturing setup, you must have seen that there is one place where somebody else is manufacturing, and this manufactured parts are being sent to a different location within a factory, which typically they call it measurement room. And there they do inspect those parts. And by the time they do inspect, they observe that, they have already manufacturing 100 of faulty components. And then they have to stop the line and they have to do all the post-mortem to do it. Now with this latest innovation in measurements, what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring measurement in sync with manufacturing. And this is exactly the whole motto of Big Zero. Well, the question arises how successful we are, what we are trying to do at this level. I think we just started 2 years back, and I'll say we had our own share of challenges. We had our own share of success, and we had the most important, we had our own share of learning. So I'll go by the learning, because we all talk about challenges in startups. When you start, the most important thing is there will always be a challenge, because you have to don so many caps that, you sometimes forget what exactly you are doing here. And the most important aspect is you have to be highly motivated and positive. So, we all are. And I can say, because we are here today talking about our challenges, I do see that we are made of different sort of mentality, and we can certainly prove what we have in our dreams. Now, what I really like about a startup, and what is my motto, what I do believe, and I do really share with a lot of people is, startups should not worry about the fire. In fact, they should be the one who should instigate that fire. Now, because we are here to disrupt. If we try to fit into this world where there are so many sharks sitting there, you won't get that respect, you won't get that place. So what exactly you need to do is you need to fire. And I'm not talking in a way how you want to do it. It's all, depends on our own skill set, how we can do. But I do believe is beyond challenges, we need to look into it, how we want to fit in. Now, when it comes to my challenges in my domain, what I'm going to talk about is mostly what I do see is true, because I'm serving and catering to the manufacturing industries, and they have a bigger problem because they don't want to engage with a startup, because they will go with your reference base, they will go with your turnover, they will see your capability, whether you can cater them or not. So this is something I will say is a most prominent challenge. Somehow, because of your capability, because of your connections, you can surpass that. But what is most important, what I do personally feel is, the most important challenge when you see in manufacturing is the big giants, the way they operate. They create such a big threat for you that you can't really fight with them in terms of pricings. And this is exactly, I do feel, in my experience in Indian manufacturing scenario, the people with whom we are fighting and those so-called competitors, for them, India is, I sometimes feel for them, India is just like a dumping zone, you know. And I sometimes, if I go by the business quotient, my business quotient, I will not rate it as a super, but if I go by the business quotient of my competitors, you know, I really sometimes see that it doesn't make sense why they are doing this type of business. But you know, it's insane, because it's so difficult to go and fight with such companies who can really afford their prices at such a level. And the challenge is that you have to deliver the same sort of capability, even better, because you are new into the system. So you have to create an wow factor to give it at an extra, you know, with a like extra USPs. And nobody is going to give you a price, because the giants are so aggressive in their prices. And this is exactly creating a threat for us. And we know, because this type of mindset, this type of business, you know, will not even help them to sustain for quite long. So it's just a matter of time who blinks first. And I do see sometimes you will face such type of problems. And if you survive with your fit strong, I think it's just a matter of pass. As we all say, this will also pass. So that's a major challenge what I do see. And I sometimes believe that, you know, down the line, we need to bring fair play into that sort of market. And that is not possible by us. You know, this can only be achieved by educating the customers. And the moment they start believing in startups, they start believing in the companies who are offering the latest innovative solutions, and they decide based on the capability rather than going by the branding and all these things, I think certainly things will improve. So yeah, that's all from my side at this moment.
Akshay, what an inspiring talk. Startup should set up the fire. Yeah, this is something which I always think that I myself is also a startup. I always believe I'm running a startup. My next speaker is the co-founder of Drona Aviation, Apurva. So I would like to hear from Apurva the real challenges he faced setting up drone manufacturing in our country. Over to you, Apurva.
Thank you, Hari, for inviting me. Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? I'm Apurva Godbole from Drona Aviation. We are a company that makes drones for students, tinkerers, consumers, and other people. Is it safe to assume that a good chunk of you are familiar with, say, Raspberry Pi and or Arduino, right? I would assume you have idea. Okay. So essentially, what Arduino is to electronics or Raspberry Pi is to computing and IoT, we have the Pluto platform for drones. I call it platform because it's not just a piece of hardware, not just the drone, but it is, well, it's a fairly open source drone, entirely open source software, a free to download app, a whole ton of content, and a tinkerer community, a community that's coming together and building some cool ideas on the drone. Coming to today's topic of our challenges, we have had a bunch of them, some not necessarily attributed to the ecosystem, some was plain stupidity on our part, but so some of these challenges were challenges like we ourselves weren't as clear about the problem statement, what, who's the customer, and ideas like that. हम ज्वाइन करते समय सोचे कि हाँ ड्रोन्स अच्छा आता है, लेट्स स्टार्ट मेकिंग ड्रोन्स एंड सेलिंग देम, व्हिच इज प्रोबब्ली द वर्स्ट वे टू गो अबाउट डूइंग इट. I am very sure all the panelists will agree with me right away when I say that, right? So that was one of our initial challenges, but once we got, so that's where we spent like first year of our time. But when we kind of realized what's the problem, we understand well, and how to go about doing it, wahan pe we had some interesting, some not so interesting challenges. It started with the fact that, I'm probably an outlier here because I am manufacturing for consumers, जिसमें while quality is definitely looked for, the price consciousness, the cost consciousness is very high. So you are not looking at, building like a very high quality and, making sure that the other person makes 10 rupees on every 1 rupee of investment. यहाँ पे हर product के पीछे एक छोटा छोटा margin ले लेके you hope to sell a whole chunk of them. That wasn't exactly very tasty for a lot of investors. जैसे हमने कभी बोल दिया सर we are into consumer electronics and like okay thank you it was nice to meet you करके निकल लेते थे. So you had issues like that also. So the challenge here was we had no real competitors in India. So we didn't really have peers who we could learn a whole chunk of things from. We kind of stumbled upon गिरते गिरते सीखते गए. At the same time, what we realized, our competitors were coming from outside the country. Obviously a good chunk of them from China, but also places like Sweden and US and others. So essentially we were competing with very heavily funded startups with superb manufacturing ecosystems where you could produce on mass and worry mostly about selling, not so much about, how to go about manufacturing and stuff like that. So that was one challenge. In fact, what also kind of hit us a bit was like if you're looking at 4 years ago, the prototyping bit, the deployment, the sale of first drones. I remember the first set of drones we sold were like so ugly, like extremely ugly drones. Not very proud of them right now, but I'm very glad we did because we got some customer love. जिनके basis पे we could continue developing. Now, if I'm looking at broader challenges to the manufacturing startups, especially in the consumer space, as I said, the first one is the lack of manufacturing ecosystem, which means har baar kuch lana hai, we have to get it done from outside in small volumes, and we're trying to kind of make and then sell here. What it did was the turnaround times were extremely high. So if I was probably, let's say, sitting in China, things that would take me a week or two to put out took me almost a month and a half or maybe a little more to kind of make happen. In fact, if you check out all the consumer hardware companies in India, you see that a very high number of them have a very, like, it's almost like a gospel truth कि आप starting का India में करो, and going down the line you basically move all of your manufacturing to China, do it contract manufacturing, and it's entirely done here, and you focus only on selling here. That is something, well, we were actively considering. We never really had a lot of cash जहाँ पे हम huge volumes में वो चीज बना के deploy कर सके. So that was, that's one of the reasons why we had to kind of figure out a new way. All of these challenges helped us, or I would say pushed us, to find a new niche for us. So this Raspberry Pi for drones, initially we were looking at just educational and just hobby drones. But then we kind of started, to find our own niche, jahan pe, in spite of this competition from outside, we could continue to still manufacture in India and still build a good presence for ourselves. At this point of our time, India mein, I think we are very comfortably the number 2 company in the number of drones sold in the educational tinkering sort of space. So broadly, these were what added to our woes was also the fact that the entire cash management becomes a little difficult. This was actually something that one of our mentors, who also sits in Pune, advised us around. कि आप चाइना से कुछ बनवाते हो, they always manage their cash very well, जहाँ पे वो सब एडवांस में ही लेते हैं, build it at a good low cost and then send it out to you. Whereas here because of lack of credit in the entire ecosystem, you always have to give a very large credit period to people, which then again adds up to the cost, adds up to the delivery time, turnaround time, and a whole bunch of things. So those are, kind of broad challenges that we faced. And as I said, because it was consumer hardware, it was difficult to convince investors. That kind of compounded the entire issue. Thankfully, we are now at a place where people know us. We have, as I said, built a specific niche, and उसमें अभी हम push कर रहे हैं. One of the solutions that we are exploring here is, well, the place where we actually get our inspiration from, which is Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is entirely manufactured in UK, and it's sold all over the world. UK isn't exactly a place known for manufacturing, but because of a good chunk of open sourcing and high volume sort of behavior, that's how they have been able to sustain. I think every year they sell somewhere between 250 million to $500 million worth of goods. So fingers crossed, let's see. But yeah, these are broad challenges we are facing, and let's see.
We completely agree that, when we are setting up a high-end device manufacturing, so we need all the, ecosystem ready. So that's a real challenge. Thus, this price-conscious Indian market, a real challenge for startups in offering value-based products. There is a different price listing, like Germany is top, then comes Japan, then comes American, and then comes India, then comes China. So there is a concept, there is a perception, right? So
I'll only tell my own story. The price that we do for Japanese OEMs, being a university startup in Japan, is 1/10 in India. I can't quote the same price that I do in Japan. 1/10 also people will not give you. So
things are changing now. People are understanding the value of the value people are understanding. Now, each one of our startup, we were talking about the investment, right? That is, funding is one of the major costs, which normally people are facing, one of the major challenge. We have with us here Kishore Jagirdar. He is a startup enabler. He is an angel investor. He also works with several industrial associations across the country, especially in Karnataka. I would like to have the views of Kishore, because he is a person who has seen a lot of startups. Over to you, Kishore ji.
So let me begin with certain basic pointers that will highlight some of the experiences that I have with the manufacturing sector with the startups. Now, the most key point here is about something that you just now did a polling. It's about the value-based products and price sensitiveness. So at the end of the day, the market behavior in terms of price selection and price preference actually overwhelms the product that we are trying to offer as a startup. And most often we get gungoed about the offering that we are making as a startup. For example, not to quote what Apurva has mentioned on the drone part, but there is one startup which says it has invented a drone that actually goes and sprays the fertilizers and the fumigation and all that stuff in the farm. Now, when I look at the innovation, it sounds great and it's awesome, and then we want to go deeper as an investor. From the investor's point of view, we'll say what is the cost that is involved in implementing this solution, and at the same time, what is the cost that the normal conventional approach of a farmer employing a laborer to go around and spray the same thing. if you look at the cost and this, sometimes, you know, you will find that what we are offering is a very high expensive adventure, and it does not really have a sort of sense of business point of view. As an investor, does it make sense to me? Because the innovation is great, the product is great, but at the end of it, what is it trying to solve, and how much monetization that it converts into? So there is a big gap, what we find as investment. And overall, in the perspective of a business, what we look at is about anything that is about 16% and above EBITDA is what we will look at as a very attractive or a first preference conversation to look into the investment part. And in the COVID situation now, that has also changed. We look at anywhere between 20 to 25% EBITDA as the benchmark for us to express interest. Because simply because if you are going through a debt approach or even an equity approach, the servicing of the debt or the equity is very, very critical. And for that, you need to have a good margin. Now, most of the time, what I find is that when it comes to the margin aspect, I find that people would be working in the manufacturing with a margin as low as 5%. So some of the industry aspects we have where, you know, when you look at a technology platform or a technology-based solution where you could be web enabling a platform or a B2B or a B2C kind of an approach, what you take on a technology-based approach, the valuation is very, very high. And what happens here is a completely different perspective in manufacturing sector, whereas all other sectors, you can get away with that. But in manufacturing, the margin is hardly between 8% to 12%.
Yep.
So this becomes a big hindrance in terms of though the credit support is there, the investment support is there, but unfortunately, most of the manufacturing startups do not meet the required expected criteria for a healthy investment. Now, going way forward due to the COVID, probably we would be looking at a realignment on this, and there may be reassessment on the reality check. But then also, as an investor, from the investment point of view, we see where the returns are good and high and where I can mitigate my risk. So that part of the aspect here in startups, we find that is a little bit of a dicey component. And then the other part is it's about the distribution of the investment. Where does the investment actually go into? And in a technology-based solution startup, what happens is most of the time it is about the acquisition of the customer, the cost of the acquisition of the customer, and then servicing the customer. But here in manufacturing, there is one factor. There's a bundling of so many factors like procurement, then production, and then ensuring that the resources are available, labor is available, and any one factor among that goes haywire a little bit here and there, then the entire process of the cost factor becomes completely misaligned. So that means at the end, what we get is a escalated higher cost of production, which often is unpredictable and dicey. So this is something that most of the time the investment part is becoming a little scary for us to look at. So one part here is, if I say precisely, I will extend credit for working capital. In the manufacturing, what happens here is most of the time the challenge is about working capital and ready availability in terms of the point to the delivery. Now here, though we have new schemes coming up and new approaches coming up, digital platforms have been created to service the manufacturing sector. We have started even looking at where let's keep aside the CIBIL rating or the CRISIL rating of the startup, and we look at what we can do to support in terms of the deal flow. So if you have a good deal flow, if you have a purchase order confirmed, then against that, can we release the credit? Can we extend some investment on based on that? So those kinds of things also have been looked into, and now those things are probably a little bit more catchy now. But at the end of the day, all that the whole thing, what we look at is what is the kind of risk factor mitigation that we are taking to cover the interest of the investment. So whether it is a fund manager or it is coming from a debt servicing point of view, what is the risk mitigation? And now that the categorization also has come now, where startups are now becoming registered as MSME, then automatically they fall into the bracket of those MSME 1, MSME 2, and MSME 3 category, where there is a time-bound approach of the payment cycle and the rating cycle. Now, if that gets delayed, then automatically they come into the next bucket. They shift from MSME 1 to MSME 2. And again, if they fail there, then they go to MSME 3. And then once they reach MSME 3, no investment can be done. That means they are already in the danger zone. So these are some of the scenarios which are coming up. And what we also as investors realize that the market cannot function, or the success of startups in manufacturing cannot function based on the conventional thought process of investment. We also are realizing the fact that there needs to be some kind of a different structure altogether, and an innovative format of investment that is required exclusively to create a funding support only for manufacturing, which understands the intricacies of manufacturing and is designed to suit the manufacturing sector. So this could be a very high risk kind of an investment approach, say micro venture capital innovative fund, something like that, which will not look at the conventional pattern, but it will look at what business the startup is trying to achieve, and work with the startup as a investment partner. So these are some of the things that I would straight away like to share. And of course, now coming to the valuation part. In the conventional startup, technology-based startups, the valuations are phenomenally high and very unrealistic sometimes, because that is the way the culture and the trend has been. But when it comes to manufacturing, the valuation is very, very on a very medium scale, and the valuation can take a dip very quickly if one element of the business gets delayed or is missing, or there is some factor where there's dependency. Now, coming to the COVID situation, valuation has been totally downgraded for everything now, all sectors. So therefore, the biggest hit is on the startups which are in the manufacturing space. Because here, as it is, they are in the conventional bracket. The business is never exponential. It is only incremental profitability that manufacturing segment offer. So therefore, there's always a challenge when the downgrade of valuation happens. Obviously, they stand outside the scope of the gambit of investment possibilities. So one more thing I think is very critical. Sorry, I forgot. One more thing. See, in the technology-based startups and the regular startup ecosystem, we find that from the beginning only the legal structure is more or less of a private limited company or a LLP, where there is a possibility of investment coming as equity and distribution. But in the manufacturing, I find that 90% of the time is, most of the time they are proprietary concerns. So therefore, the very possibility of equity investment or anything that is there as open preferential shares or anything that we can work on is, not possible in the beginning itself. We virtually have to entice them into move from the proprietary concern to a more legal structured, which can accommodate investment and make it more viable. So I think this one critical element is missing. in the manufacturing sector. So thank you very much.
So eventually, what I am understanding is in India, basically it is all the onus is all on the people, right? It is all on the people. If Akshay decides not to start Big Zero technology, there is no Big Zero technology. If Apurva and his friends decide there is no Drona aviation, it is not there. So in the entire startup ecosystem, I am not finding out a real good supportive system for these entrepreneurs or these innovators who are coming and taking a risk in their life, leaving a great job and coming and doing something, you know. See, how many people of you know about this different MSME structures? Anyone?
Well, I think
No,
I will just add here, because I was hearing Mr. Kishore Jagirdar sir for quite a long time, and I perfectly agree with what he told about his criteria of putting investment. And I will say that's exactly is common in market at the moment when you go and ask for the investments, because from an investor point of view, there's nothing wrong in looking for EBITDA of more than 25% or 20-25%. And he's perfectly right when he's saying that when it comes to manufacturing, it is 8 to 12%. And that's precisely the reason India is predominantly a service nation. We are actually the back office of the whole world. We have never been able to become manufacturing hub like China. And things the government is going gung-ho about Atmanirbhar Bharat and all this stuff. I think there is a huge gap as we see in the software development. I think manufacturing is also going to take a big leap. And you're perfectly right. The onus is not totally on government. I think down the line we have to create an ecosystem in a way where investors and everybody has to realign, which he perfectly summed up that he will be doing. I think
Akshay, how much time we are going to talk all these good stuffs? What I am only telling you is, Akshay, how much support you got in your life when you started a startup? How many people came and told, Akshay, you are doing a great job, I am going to support you on this?
Well, I think that's true. That's true that, but that's exactly the point of starting a startup is, there is an ecosystem.
Yeah, Khushbu, I'm telling you another problem what Khushbu is facing. She wants to do something on e-mobility. She wants to support this battery ecosystem. So she goes to people who is the aggregator or who is the person who is running this trucks and all those things, ask that, can you give the data? He's telling, I'm not having the data. I will not be able to give you the data. Otherwise, earlier, I think Chaitanya Nana was telling that it's not about investment, okay? Because when I see, this is something which is completely different about manufacturing startups. When a person starts a startup on e-commerce or a Ola kind of stuff, he have an idea first and he try to find out an investor. Okay, I am having a great idea. Why can't you get me investment? I will be making it in a different way. A manufacturing startup doesn't work like that.
I agree.
Manufacturing startup first think that, okay, I have a product. Oh my God, I can make this product completely different. He goes and starts making it. He takes the spanner or whatever it is, he makes it, he develops it. Now his challenge is that how to get it market, how to bring customers, how to get 2-3 people who can support me in getting that. And along with that, sometimes one person came to our factory and tells, भैया आपका प्रोफेशनल टैक्स आपने नहीं भरा है, अभी आप प्रोफेशनल टैक्स नहीं भरेगा तो आपका प्रॉब्लम है, तो वो करके फिर हम उसके पीछे जाते हैं तो हमारा R&D हो गया. R&D में जिस लड़के को हमने रख दिया तो और कहीं पे छोड़ के चला गया जब तक पीटी भरा के हमने वापस आया. So where is the ecosystem to support this, this startups? What is the ecosystem? I have high respect for our Prime Minister.
There is no ecosystem for that, and I totally say that the onus is on us. If we
no Akshay, your onus you have already done. Can you are telling that the onus is on us. Tomorrow, can you give me that? I don't understand what is MSME 1, MSME 2. If the onus is on you, can you please give us all the, if you will be able to do all the research and come and make a great package and give to all the people that, okay, Chaitanya, this is what you should do. Yeah, we need people into the ecosystem.
It's not
We need people
possible
from the
then.
government to really come and support.
Yeah. Compliance in our country is very, even though they tell 3 years you don't have to
Any taxes.
do any taxes, things like that, but still these chartered accountants will be behind us telling, no, you have to follow the process from day one. Every month you have to file your GST and you have to pay fees to your chartered accountant. It will burn your cash flow.
Yeah.
It
I just wanted to add a point here when you mentioned about GST. So I am a very recent burner of the GST. So when I applied for that, so it got rejected first time, and the second time also it got rejected, and the third time it was like it didn't happen a very smooth way, right? It is just the government's income, but still we have to face a lot of issues in getting those things registered. Like, why is that? It's a pain, right? And GST officer calling me that I'm not getting this, and
Compliance
that's
can be simplified. Compliance, in my view, can be simplified a lot, especially for startups, which will allow us to concentrate on our product rather than on our giving
Compliance.
financial management.
absolutely.
Compliance.
So who is the failure?
So,
Whom you think the failure here? Is the government or the bureaucrats, the system?
I think it is a system.
The politicians, the
No.
bureaucrats?
No, policies are well laid out, which will clearly tell that, okay, you don't have to pay taxes for 3 years. But unfortunately, the system in which people are used to, the chartered accounts are used to for filing it up regularly. So they don't enable startups. They will fear us. They will tell certain stories which will make us fear, and then we will start following all the compliance processes, which will lead us to spend more time in the compliance. Usually, I spend about 2 to 3 days of my effort every month in just the compliance process, which is huge for a startup.
No,
Mr.
Kishore, you
Jagirdar,
also,
just a quick short question. You mentioned that you generally look at companies with an EBITDA margin of 25%, right? And you also mentioned that you don't see revenues in a startup, in a manufacturing startup or a physical product hardware startup grow in multiples, but it grows only incrementally in small percentages. Am I understanding correctly that you are looking at companies which are fairly a steady state company and not looking at a high amount of growth? Jahan pe it's not like the market is 100 units and they are at 1 unit, so that their growth potential is still 10 times, 20 times, or 50 times. So again, is my understanding correct, or am I missing something here?
No, what I meant was that in the pre-COVID situation, we were looking at 16% and above as a very attractive starting point of EBITDA for investments. But now in the COVID situation, because of the risk factor being very high, because the customers have moved, you don't know who the customers are. You need to reinvent yourself, repurpose your business, and find out everything all over again. So by the time you do that, there's a lot of risk factor here involved, and the burn rate is very high. So therefore, we're looking at 20 to 25% as the EBITDA as a starting point of discussion. So that is what I mean. And then
also, is it? Sorry. Please continue.
In terms of the incremental part, see, most of the manufacturing businesses are in the incremental space only. Because there are so many pulling factors which are there, which will influence the business. So unlike in a technology-based, technology-driven startups where the R&D, intellectual property all create a lot of high exponential value. So that part is missing in a manufacturing startup. So this is something which comes as a occupational hazard of the domain.
Got it. So again, just to summarize just what I understood here, So you mentioned you're looking at around 25, which would likely mean that this company is profitable at a time when you are looking to invest, because generally 25% ITDA to nahi hoga is what I would imagine.
Earlier, what happened, where people were looking at more of assumption on the business canvas model, and then based on the relationship on the business plan, investment and term sheets were signed. But today the reality is different, where that part of the era is dead now. That Indian economy itself has moved from that space to a different level of investment, where we say you need to have confirmed credible source of evidence that you are a cash positive startup.
Got it.
And when you are there, then only you can attract investment.
Got it. Got it. Cash flow neutral works or
that
not
is
really?
Eventually, Apurva, that
Okay,
is how it needs to be, I believe, that, you know,
Right.
and I don't think that startups need investment. What startup needs is the proper infrastructure and ecosystem, people to start working and producing. So that is where my question to Kishore was. See, if the government is not doing, politicians are trying, okay, fine. Bureaucrats, the system is not supporting. But then for the industrialists, they have their own business. But there are a lot of associations. You are also part of CASIA or, Federation of different CI and all those things. Why these associations are not helping startups to ensuring, to take them to ease of doing business, or educating them in these compliances and giving them a hand?
See,
The industry
largely,
association can play a major role.
yeah, it's a very good, valid point. I would like to address it in 2 points now. One is that from the policy point of view, policy making point of view, since I'm part of the policy making in government of India and state government also, they do an assessment and they scan the entire environment. Now, when they are scanning, they look at a certain aspect of the degree of what they can comprehend based on certain thumb rules. Now, when the aspects are within the thumb rule, then they consider it and they will work on a policy change. When certain factors are there which are outside the scope of it, they just leave it. Whereas you are a practitioner, you are on the ground, you are facing things at the granular level. So the way you look at it as a startup owner will be totally different from where the policy makers are coming from. So by the time they understand this, create a assessment, a report, and then finally come with a policy announcement, the ground reality on which they would have worked would have again shifted further. So what they are offering as policy change would already be too late in terms of the deliverables, because the reality on the ground has already moved.
So that's what I'm telling you. So this, whatever system is there, is not going to help us, any startups.
Correct. So the bottom line is, we are being very foolish in the startup ecosystem, depending on the policies of the government to help us. It is purely startups have to come together and understand the value chain. People like you who are trying to facilitate this, you need to look at this. If you can grade the entire process of functional aspect of the support system, and we have to create our own system of where all the components are come, like a vertical cluster, where there is a manufacturing, a startup doing the final product. Then along with that, what all things come, someone who is a supplier also getting aligned with that, investor also getting aligned with that. Like that, you create a ring or a circle of various communities of startups, and automatically that will become a benchmark of holding each other, and automatically that cascades into a effective ecosystem. So the government can only participate in terms of what you have proven as a demonstrable change.
See, anyway, now going back from here, Raghavendra Rao tells one of the answer to the question what we were talking is, no one is the who is at fault. It is because of the cultural issue. I also agree with him. It is all in our culture. We think that we try to put the onus on each other. Actually, there I am not telling Akshay is wrong when he is telling that onus is onus, because that is why he is an entrepreneur. That is why he is taking things on his own and he is not having complaints. But what I am trying to say is, when we are trying to start a venture or something, and we need support.
I will hurry.
That is what I mean to say.
I will jump in here why I say you, because I don't believe in a word when it comes to manufacturing a startup. Because this concept was here for more than 100 years, 50 years. And if you just go to any industrial hub in Bangalore or in Pune or in Delhi and NCR, you'll see thousands of companies, like a single honor-based company, they've already started. And they're surviving, they're thriving with their own challenges. And they are my inspirations. The moment I do see them, even they have 2 lathe machines and they are manufacturing, they're doing some machinings, and they're having those 50 of the workers, and they're surviving. And this has been there for so many years. And they have been managing their whole account. And then why all this fancy stuffs come into when it comes to manufacturing? No. We are not into those tech and IPR that we are talking about. We are here to manufacture and a part of an ecosystem. And we should be synonymous with a manufacturing ecosystem rather than being a misfit of a technology startup. So the moment we change that approach, I think you will get a lot of inspiration around your company. Then you'll see there are so many people, they are surviving even with such a challenges. You just go and see today how they are surviving, even post-COVID scenario. And you'll see inspiration there. That is why I was saying that onus is on us. Government will never provide it. I still say government is trying really hard. It may be there, but unless and until few of us come forward and we start bringing that change, and I am being very optimistic because I do see it from that point of view, and this is how the change will start. Otherwise, we are going to be back office, we'll be making some copy of a software, we'll be trying to give it to the market, and this is where the investors will run, because you don't have any risk there in terms of investments. You just have 5 people and they talk about those cool startup cultures and the pool table and sitting around. No, manufacturing is a different ballgame. And you have to think from that aspect. Don't mix both the things. And the moment you create that differentiator in your mind, I think you will have a 90% chance of winning. And that's how I believe. And I may be wrong. I'm not saying that everybody has to do my thought.
Akshay, you are not wrong. But what I want to tell you, only one thing is that the systems were there before 50 years. Government used to bring systems. There were different schemes. But the actual part is that it never used to reach an entrepreneur. This is what we are talking about. Yeah. So you are, as I told you from the beginning, you are a great inspiration. So everyone is not like that. You are a successful person, but if you go to Hubli, Dharwad, I started my career in Delhi. I roamed in Okla industrial area. Same way I roamed in Hubli, Dharwad. And you know that Bangalore was otherwise Karnataka was the hub of machine tool at one point of time. And during the recessions of 2000 beginning, there are a lot of companies in Hubli and Dharwad closed down. Now also, if you go to the Karnataka State Industrial Association, you may see, I don't know what is the condition because I have not gone for more than 10, 12 years. I never visited there. But there were a situation, lots of sheds closing down because the government support were there, schemes were there, but it was not reaching these entrepreneurs. Now, coming from there, we have certain one question. One should be taking the risk of starting a startup without any MNC experience. To ask in short, should I first walk before I run, or I can run before I can walk? This is a question which is from one of our participants. Can someone answer this? I will again repeat that question. So should one be taking the risk of starting a startup without any MNC experience? Should I first walk before I run, or I can run before I can walk? Who's going to
I will answer the questions here.
So I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, Chaitanya, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I would like to take my example only. I have 15 years of experience working with MNCs and all big Fortune companies like Siemens, Rockwell Automation, and I've been in those industries at various leadership roles. things which I've learned from there are one of the most important thing is there are processes, and we need to follow those. We need to follow certain process to achieve certain, output. Uh, but if it is about, if you have an idea, if you think that you can serve the customer, if you understood the pain area, if you understand the problem statement properly, I don't really think that you need to go through an MNC experience. This is what I think, because that can actually act against your that can act against your pace also at certain junctions, because you by default will try going in a process driven format, and it might, the holistic view will not be visible to you. So it has to be raw, and if the idea is raw, and if I don't think MNC is the must experience. That's what my call is about. I think I open it for Apurva and Akshay to.
Chaitanya, I completely agree with you. Without having the barrier of MNC experience, if he
Yes.
comes with a fresh mindset on looking things as is, he will succeed, because he will find alternate ways to run the business.
It takes time to unlearn a lot of things.
Yeah, we have to unlearn a lot. Whereas the guy who is fresh, he will, what do you call? He doesn't have to struggle much. Yeah. So on the same contrary side, which Kishore was also mentioning, I'll just tell my views on the what do you call, a startup working in the hardware segment. Very difficult, especially if you are a hardware manufacturer. Nobody will come to you for investment, because the EBITDA margins, we will not have EBITDA margins like app or Ola, Uber kind of a thing. We will be very limited to the EBITDA margins because of the hardware manufacturing involved in it. That's where government support helps a lot, especially in China. If you are hardware, the support that the system gets in for people to start in the manufacturing, that's why they are number one in the world, because they get the complete support from the government on all the taxes and regimes. But here, our compliance will kill us. So
Geetanjali is asking, how strong is our Indian startup ecosystem? We are talking about an ecosystem, right, Gnana? So
yeah,
she's asking, how strong is our Indian startup ecosystem compared to other ecosystem in providing the collaborative growth? But I am not sure that if there is any particular ecosystem we can talk about for manufacturing exclusively. Do we have? Anyone know?
No, I don't think
About a particular ecosystem where people can go?
Okay, there are no. I have not seen anything either supported by NASSCOM or anybody where startups can go there, and no, at least I have not heard of Hari.
But Kishore, he will be able to talk, because as you are mentoring a lot of startups, is there for manufacturing, particularly manufacturing startups, can they go anywhere and ask support?
See, the support mechanisms are there in plenty. For example, there are center of excellences. Let me take Bangalore example. There are about 4 places where the manufacturing entire technology and basic infrastructure support is being kept there. Like, for example, GTTC or GWS. So like this, there are a lot of places where these things are available. So what is very crucial here? The crucial aspect is that that information is not freely available. Now, if you are routing yourself from like Peenya Industrial Association or any of these particular industrial organization, then you can access them and you can make use of it. Whereas they will invest in your prototyping, they will invest in your R&D. and they will also enable you to start your outsource that entire facility to create the production assembly line for you in that place, and so that you can, as a startup, cut down your initial expenses of putting your own infrastructure. All these things are available. It is just that awareness is not there, because startup, the moment you put it, you give that tag of startup, somewhere they go into a different altogether glorified impression of a business model, and we are ourselves creating isolation because of this. So the tag of startup is largely around ideas which are on high technology solutions and high financial growth. So it completely discriminates between the idea of a normal business thought process, and the mindset is corrupted. So this is creating a mental block of not being able to access the opportunities which are already available adequately.
I think
Awareness
Mr. Kishore here.
Awareness is not there. How do we create that awareness? See, there should be, we have a startup cell and we make a registration and we get a startup number. Somewhere a regular communication has to be there in which to tell what are the benefits that are available, what are the opportunities that are available. Maybe that kind of an ecosystem is still not there.
Okay, friends, we are just getting our time. 5:30 was the time. We are going to 5:40. So one thing I would like to tell you is that what happened, startup, the culture was not there in manufacturing. The people who would like to start something in manufacturing, they just want to start it and establish their work. Actually, that is a fact till now. But at least we are happy that in EV, electric vehicle, there are lots of youngsters who are coming and setting up small shops. At least there, the startups we are able to find out. Otherwise, before 10 years, I never heard startups, those kind of words in manufacturing. I used to travel a lot. I used to meet a lot of people. Never one person told. Always the entrepreneurs used to tell about the troubles, tax and all those things. Things change a lot. You go and ask some entrepreneurs who are doing business before 20 years, and today there are different stories to tell. But that time, their biggest trouble was compliances. India have moved ahead on that. But when you compare India with other countries, I'm not comparing with China. Never, I am not comparing with China. Any other country which is doing very well manufacturing, we are very, very far behind. The government, the politician talk somewhere very nice words, and I'm not telling their intention is wrong, but somewhere the system is not supporting. The water is not ready to flow on the right way. It would like to flow the old way, and it is very difficult to change perceptions. So before I close this today's program, I have with me one of a very, very experienced industry consultant, Mr. P.S. Satish, who worked with Bosch for more than 15-20 years, and now he's enabling a lot of manufacturers to establish themselves and develop their business, training and all those things. So you would like to have his say about the startups and its ecosystem, and with his remarks, if he's able to talk, I would like to end today's session. Mr. Satish, are you available?
I'm here. I'll be able to. Good evening. Good evening to all. See, it was very interesting discussion to hear, because normally when we what Hari said, whenever we talk of startup, it's only something related with IT where there is no investment required, or the gestation period to bring a business is very small compared to the manufacturing. And when we, there are 2 points I heard, on the question side. One is on the, should somebody has an experience in the MNC? Because, experience of MNC for a startup also has a flip side. See, one thing, startup can learn from MNC is about the systems and processes, but may not be much on the specific product per se. So but in my personal experience, I feel 2-3 years experience outside in any manufacturing industry, irrespective of the product what you are going to manufacture, that will give a starting point than somebody starting with a zero knowledge, especially in manufacturing. This is different from the IT industry. So it may be working with somebody, some other company on that. And like, one other point he said is ecosystem. Ecosystem in, say, in Bangalore, we have a cell in Indian Institute of Material Management. But that ecosystem is mostly related to the more of advisory mode on the sales, on maybe strategy and other things, but not per se to the actual on the day-to-day issues which the typical manufacturing industry faces. So this is where the associations and other things should have some startup cell with the consultants or bringing some experience in the industry and give them some basic facility of measurements, basic facility of manufacture, basic facility of knowledge. Maybe that could be a good idea on that. Okay, thank you, Hari. And it's same on the startup. I had the opportunity in this COVID time to write a book on, especially on startup. I would like Hari is supporting a lot. Probably I will bring that so that many people can help get benefit out of some thinking. What the thinking should be for a startup person. That is the focus more on the mind, not on the product.
Good, I think. Good to know the experience.
Thank you.
Converted into a book. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that is about 52 chapters. That is, talks about various problems a startup person really finds difficult. See, product is only a small portion of the startup, and so many other things are there like business, finance, customers, and so on. Thank you, Hari. Probably I stretched a little more few minutes than what you had allotted me.
No, actually, I would like to once again thank to Kishore, Nana, Apurva, Kushbu, Chaitanya, and Akshay. This is our first venture into this Friday debate. So even I am more nervous than you people, okay? Because I don't know, because this format we are trying to fix up, and over time I think we are going to improve. But I would like to make a point where people should come and talk openly, and we should talk something. And what I want to do is, I would like to empower one person from here to tell that, okay, you are having a problem, you can go to Kishore and Kishore is going to give you help. No, even CI is having a particular section, you go there, you will get a help. That is how we need to develop. Otherwise, this entire meeting will not have any essence. So, thank you very much, guys, for joining with us. Please give back your feedback. Was it good? Should I continue or tell Hari you do something else? Okay, I will take that feedback also. So I would like to just tell you about the next Friday, next 4 subjects what we are talking about. Next Friday, we are going to talk about social media groups and Indian manufacturing. So, the WhatsApp groups, I got a lot of people from the groups only. So startup groups and Indian manufacturing, social media groups and Indian manufacturing, we are going to talk next Friday. After that, we are going to talk about skilling the unskilled. That is industry academy collaborations. We are talking about that. And the third Friday, we are talking about home floor versus shop floor. This work from home was never something what manufacturing know about. So we are going to debate on that. And last but not the least, on 31st, we are going to talk about be vocal for local, but how to go global. So these are our subjects which we are trying to debate. Please give us more feedback, suggestions, so that we can improve. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hari. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Hari. Brilliant.